As I was sitting here looking at the resume of Jaime Munguia, who just stopped uh, John Ryder round number 9. Well, actually, the corner stopped it. The referee couldn't see it. But here, let me go show you the clip real quick. Take your time out. Like the video. Subscribe. This is stopped him around number 9. The first person to ever stop John Ryder. And John Ryder is actually talking about retiring. He was talking about it this week that it possibly his last fight. So here he is. He's getting stopped. You know, in the he's on the ropes now. Mind you, they're ringing the bell. Here, I'll let it play through a little bit. So he couldn't see the corner, you know, basically throwing in the towel or waving the towel like, "Hey, stop the fight." Here is the shot that really did him in. He was down 4 times in the fight total. Correct me if I'm wrong. I actually sat here and watched this entire card. I watched the Royal Rumble from 7 p.m. the pre-show to the end of the event. I sat here and watched this card. I started around like 5:30 or so with the prelims, and then got it right through it. Shout out to Gabrielle Fondora, the sister of the Towering Inferno, Sebastian Findora, who got a stoppage over Christina Cruz. Some may say it was controversial, but if you didn't see the fight, or if you did, basically Christina Cruz was outboxing Findora until the later rounds when Findora, who's got the dog in her, started actually walking down and hitting Cruz with some clean shots. Cruz ended up turning her back to try to clear her eye or something was going on, but the referee stopped your fight. That's one of the last things you should do in boxing is turn your back. Now the referee could have gave her a warning, but you know that's how that fight went out. So she's on her way to a possible big fight with Marlon Esparza. So here's where the stoppage came in, or how he got hurt. He took a big punt. Is it this one? But yeah, he was getting tagged up. Now, one thing about Jaime Munguia is, don't get me wrong, he is good. I'm just not sold because he gets hit a lot. And his team right now, they're really lobbying for him on the zone for him to get Canelo, and it's hard for me to see it. I believe that it can happen, but he's going to have to go over to Amazon Prime. Canelo, now here's how I look at it. Let me see it this way. If you're fighting on PBC cards, if they have the rights to promote and put on your next fight, then you are a PBC fighter. Same goes for Crawford. There's been this thing going around, and I'm not a PBC fanboy. You know, I try to keep it, non-biased, but it's like if you're fighting on their cards, you're a PBC fighter. So the point I'm trying to make is I don't care about, well, they got their own independent deals. You fight on PBC cards. PBC is on the poster of your fight. They're broadcasting your event. But anyway, moving on. I don't. It's not going to be Munguia next. I have a strong feeling it's going to be Jamal Charlo. Those rumors have already been out there, and the Jamal Charlo Canelo fight has been in the works or in talks for years now. And one thing I've noticed about Al Heyman is he's been kind of cashing all of his fighters out. And he's not the type of, for what I've learned in covering him for years, if he says you're going to get a fight, you get the fight. So he's already offered Canelo the Jamal Charlo fight many times before. I think it's been like from 4 times from my count, going back to like years and years and years ago. So, and the fact that Jamal Charlo stepped in for his brother because Jamal didn't feel he was ready at the time, who looked good in his last fight against Jose Benavidez, by the way. I think that fight's going to be next in May. Now, he's supposed to have one more fight after that with Al Heyman. I won't be surprised if it's Errol Spence. If Errol Spence is still going to be fighting, he took a big ass whooping from Crawford. Now he's making excuses and shit. I won't even know if the rematch is even going to happen. Like he got like his soul was taken. So when I look at Munguia, 27 years old, 43-0, 34 KOs. By the way, I would play the post-fight interview, but he ain't say nothing of note. Chris Manning's in the zone. They were trying to get him to call out Canelo, but he said nothing's on the table yet. We're going to see who my team has for me, yada, yada, yada. So, but you look at his resume, though, there's no names that really, really stick out. And I've been covering this guy for fucking 6 years now. 6+ years now. I was there when he put a boot in the ass of Saddam Ali, meaning I watched the fight. The Liam Smith win his age somewhat well. Takashi Inoue, remember Tim Tszyu fought him. That's, you see, there are names that you know. You be like, oh, okay, I already fought him. But there's no names that be like, oh shit, he beat such and such. There's nothing there yet. And you can say maybe fighters don't want to fight him, or a lot of people were saying that Golden Boy was babying him, but it's really time for him to step up, and especially the fact that he was offered the Jamal Charlo fight, wasn't it? And he didn't take it, or they wouldn't allow him to go over to Showtime. But look, Liam Smith, that's aged well. Takashi Inoue, Dennis Hogan. A lot of people thought Dennis Hogan won that fight. Dennis Hogan was never the same after that. Gary Spike O'Sullivan, the reason why I count that is because Lara just fought him in Lara's last fight. Lara's fighting Mick Zarafa March the 30th when PBC launches their Amazon deal, headlined by Keith Thurman and Tim Tszyu. Lara's fighting Mick Zarafa, but Lara's last fight before that was Gary O'Sullivan. So that's why I'm like, all right, he fought Gary O'Sullivan. Toriano Johnson, quality name. Gabriel Rosado, still quality name. Despite the 3,000 losses, Sergey Derevianchenko, that was a barn burner, and then he's the first person to stop John Ryder. So it's a resume where you can look like, all right, cool, I like that resume, but he needs, like, it's time to find that marquee win. And when you look at the rankings here, if he fights Canelo, he's got to go over to Canelo's terms. They let Ryan Garcia go over, so even though it was a dual broadcast between the zone, but Munguia, he has a growing Mexican fan base. I'm not picking him to beat Canelo because he gets hit too much. He just gets hit too much, and Canelo is a technician, especially at this stage in his career. So realistically, who could he fight? Edgar Berlanga, the winner, the cannibal Berlanga. He like to bite people and shit. If it's one thing I can't stand, I cannot stand cannibals. Beck the Bully, Kuzaliev, Mbali, he's over top-ranked Yvonne Michelle fight. I believe he's with the Canadian promoter. They got to get a name that's going to stick out. And remember, it's got to be somebody in the top 15. They want to fight somebody ranked. And it's got to be somebody in their promotional stable if it's not going to be Canelo next, which I don't think it's going to be. So who is it going to be? Those are the only names that's sticking out. Berlanga, Malakuzaliev, and Beck the Bully. How about that? Anybody from 160 that can move up? Wild card? I think that Canelo will fight Chris Eubank Jr. I don't know where I got that from, but I think Canelo would go over to the UK. He's never fought over the UK before. I can see Canelo, making that trip for somebody like Chris Eubank Jr. And I'm looking at guys at 160 pounds that could possibly move to 168. Fucking Shane Mosley Jr., you think they feed him Shane Mosley? That's not a big enough fight. Like, they got to start moving him. They got to start moving fast with him. So those are the names that's sticking out. Beck the Bully and Edgar Berlanga. Edgar Berlanga just hasn't been looking good, lately. But let's see, anybody at 175, if he was to do a catch weight, just to, get a name under his belt, nope. I don't think he would go as far as 175, because then that'd be like, well, why don't you just move up? But yeah, that's where we're at with it. As I said, nothing really was in the post-fight interview of note for me to sit here and play the whole shit, and also it's fucking 1 o'clock in the morning. I wish that we can go back, not go back, but have these pay-per-views on the East Coast over at 11:30, like PBC's been doing lately, especially with them Showtime cards, starting at 8 o'clock. Main event, they in the ring by like 10:45. It is what it is. Let me stop bitching and complaining. Take your time out, like the video, subscribe. I am TstreeT Controversy with Fight View 360. Let me see, did I miss anything? Oh, John Ryder's talking about retiring. So I think he may be done. I mean, see, here's the thing. Look at John Ryder's resume. It's like he's a tough, rugged fighter. But he's never been, like, really good. There's no disrespect. I've covered these fights all the way back. Let me tell you something. I used to be a big-time At one point in time, I used to cover everything. I covered this Nick Blackwell fight. I covered that fight. John Ryder versus Nick Blackwell. John Ryder versus Rocky Fielding. John Ryder versus Billy Joe Saunders. I covered those fights. He lost to Jack Arnfield, who ended up losing to who? I remember this guy. Did he lose to fucking Brian Rose? Tommy Langford. He fought Brian Rose. I used to be a degenerate. I used to be watching everything. But also, I wasn't getting no sex either. So, you know, there's that. And I was terminally ill. So, you know, Rocky Fielding, you know, these are quality wins for him. The biggest wins of his career is the Akaway, and of course Danny Jacobs and Zach Parker. And he stood up in there with Canelo, but he's never been a guy that I was looking at like, oh, yo, motherfucking John Ryder coming along. I'm telling you, he's gonna fuck Canelo. Never, never. But the fact that he was the first to stop John Ryder, and John Ryder hasn't been really known to be a fighter to take a beating. Tonight he took a beating, so you gotta give a little bit of credit to Jaime, But it's time to step that shit up because I'm sick of seeing fights like this. If I'm being honest, Take your time out, like the video, subscribe. I'm TstreeT Controversy with Fight View 360.